1970, Yale Library, New Haven, Connecticut. A young, self-proclaimed hippie is staring at a young man. Eventually, she got up to go talk to him. She introduced herself to him. A few days later, they went out on their first date. 5 years later, on that exact day, they were married. Years later, Hillary talks about that fateful day.
He was standing out in the hallway, and I don't know, those moments, sort of like click, and I was sitting there and I just started staring at him, and I just began to look at him, and I thought, I really like the way he looks. I need to get to know him. And then he caught my eye and he began staring back at me, and so here I am in the library not reading. Here he is actually surrounded by people who are talking at him, not talking back. So finally I thought, this is ridiculous. I'm in this class with this person, and so I put my books down and I went up and I said, if you're going to keep looking at me and I'm going to keep looking at you, we ought to at least know each other's names. I'm Hillary Rodham, who are you? And he says that he couldn't remember his name. That makes me feel so good when he says that. But anyway, he did sort of stumble out, I'm Bill Clinton. Well, then, you really want me to go on about this? I mean, this is, then we ended up, and it was the last day of class, this class that we hardly ever went to, but occasionally saw each other in, and we both showed up for the last day. And so I was walking out the door, and he kind of got to the door at the same time. He said, where are you going? And I said, well, I'm going to go register for my classes next year. He said, oh, I need to do that. And I said, okay. So we walked together, and we stood in this endless line, registrar's endless lines. And we talked and talked and talked, and I finally got up to the line. And the registrar, this wonderful woman who I've kept in touch with, Gloria McHugh, said, well, Hillary, what are you going to take? And I started to fill it out, and then she looked at me and said, Bill, why are you here? You registered yesterday.
A few years before Hillary met Bill at Yale, she attended Wellesley. Hillary wrote a thesis on Marxist Saul Alinsky and his book, Rules for Radicals. Hillary immersed herself in Alinsky's work. Eventually, she was offered a job from Alinsky. She turned him down. Alinsky said, to fundamentally transform the government, the best way was to take it by force. Hillary believed instead that she would become the government, and that would be the way that she did it. Bill and Hillary moved to Arkansas, where Bill ran for state attorney general, then eventually ran for governor at 36 years old, becoming the youngest governor in recent history. Bill and Hillary eventually partnered with the McDougalls. Together, they formed the Whitewater Development Corporation to build vacation homes. James McDougal purchased a small bank, which he renamed Madison Guaranty, with which he loaned Hillary money to build a concept house for their business. In 1984, the federal government began investigating Madison Guaranty, questioning its lending practices. In 1986, McDougal held a fundraiser to help pay off Clinton's campaign debts, which was against the Federal Election Committee's rules. Also, in 1986, McDougal obtained a loan from the Small Business Administration and gave it to Bill and Hillary, yet again against the FEC's rules and guidelines, and also against the loan's agreements. Years later, Hillary ordered all the documents about Whitewater to be destroyed. Throughout Hillary's political career, she's claimed to love children. So does Hillary Clinton actually love children? Well, in 1975, that may have seemed like a different story.
It happened on this stretch of highway in Fayetteville, Arkansas, back in 1975. A 12-year-old girl brutally attacked by a 41-year-old man. They were reportedly in his pickup truck after midnight and parked in a ravine. That's where she says he beat and raped her. The sixth grader ended up in the emergency room. The young lawyer called on to defend the suspect in the case was none other than Hillary Rodham. Just 27, she had moved to Arkansas to be with her then-boyfriend, Bill Clinton. Hillary Rodham was running the legal clinic at the University of Arkansas in Fayetteville. The defendant, Thomas Alfred Taylor, who denied the charge, had requested a woman lawyer. So the judge appointed the future Mrs. Clinton. It would be her first criminal defense case. Maylin Gibson was the prosecutor at the time.
The day after she was appointed, in fact, she called me and wanted to know if I could get her unappointed. She didn't want to represent the rapist.
Despite her objections, Clinton immersed herself in Taylor's defense, as she was legally obligated to do. In this affidavit seeking a psychiatric evaluation of the victim and signed Hillary Rodham, the rookie lawyer painted the victim as emotionally unstable, suggesting she'd brought false accusations like this before, that she fantasized about older men, and that experts say children like the victim tend to exaggerate or romanticize sexual experiences. CNN contributor Josh Rogan interviewed the victim, now in her 50s, back in 2014, nearly 4 decades after the crime. The victim said the allegations in the affidavit are untrue, that she'd never romanticized sexual experiences or made any false accusations before.
There's never been any evidence presented by anyone to substantiate the allegations that Hillary Clinton made in that affidavit. To the victim, this was an attempt by Hillary Clinton to smear her in order to exonerate her attacker. The victim believes that Hillary Clinton lied in order to win.
Clinton also insisted on getting her own expert opinion on the accused rapist's underwear, after the crime lab had cut out the key part of the sample to test, then lost it. In a bold move for a first-time defender, Clinton brought what was left of the accused rapist's underwear from Arkansas all the way here to Brooklyn, New York, more than 1,200 miles, just so a renowned forensic expert she'd hunted down could look it over. A move considered aggressive even by the prosecutor's standards. Maybe so, but it worked. Clinton's expert cast doubt on what was left of the evidence, saying it hardly showed the defendant's blood or semen. The prosecution's case quickly started to unravel.
We began to scramble and consider possibilities of lesser offenses.
The story was mostly forgotten until in 2014, audio emerged of Clinton talking about the case with an Arkansas journalist back in the 1980s. Listen to her laugh describing the moment she delivered her forensic expert's findings to the prosecutor.
I handed it to Maylin Gibson. I said, well, this guy's ready to come from New York to this miscarriage of justice.
Those recordings were played for the victim by Josh Rogan during his interview. Her reaction was anger.
When I heard that tape, I was pretty upset. You lied on me, and you're supposed to be it for women? Do you call that for women? What you done to me? And I heard you on tape laughing.
There is another piece of audio that Clinton's critics have pointed to for some time. Clinton on the same tape laughing about her client passing a polygraph.
He took a lie detector test. I had to take a polygraph, which he passed, which forever destroyed my faith in polygraphs. But you know what was sad about it was that the prosecutors had evidence.
But whatever evidence the prosecutor had was trumped by Clinton's defense. In fact, even the prosecutor told us Clinton was doing what any good defense attorney would do.
She was just doing her job. She was going to present the best defense she could, and she was certainly going to require us to prove his guilt.
In a plea deal, she got her client's charges reduced from rape to unlawful fondling of a child. For rape, Thomas Taylor could have gone to prison for life. Instead, he was sentenced to 1 year in the county jail. Even that was reduced 2 months for time served. Clinton was asked about the case weeks after her audio tapes emerged during this interview with an online parenting network in Britain.
When you're a lawyer, you often don't have the choice as to who you will represent, and by the very nature of criminal law, there will be those who you represent that you don't approve of, but at least in our system, you have an obligation, and once I was appointed, I fulfilled that obligation.
No matter her explanation, the victim sees it very differently.
She said that the sentence was a miscarriage of justice. In the victim's view, you cannot at once smear a rape victim and then turn around and claim to be a defender or a role model for women.
Hillary Clinton is also a self-proclaimed fan of Margaret Sanger, whom started Planned Parenthood to create the perfect human race, which was inspired by the Nazis, encouraging black people to abort their unborn child. Margaret Sanger was heavily inspired by the Nazis and Hitler's attempt at creating the perfect Aryan race. So is Hillary Clinton a person who actually cares about children and people's problems? Or is she just a Marxist who just wants to get her Marxist ways on our country? Either way, her lies and scandals have plagued her all throughout her career, but she's always gotten away with them.